The sky above was cracked with fire. Alien warships floated like dark shadows across the clouds. The planet Kiros, home to golden temples and ancient towers, was now a battlefield. Soldiers screamed, buildings collapsed, and machines of war tore through the air. It was supposed to be a simple ceremony, a day of peace, but it became something else, something deadly. Zareth, commander of the Kyrian elite, stood on the balcony of the high citadel. Her black armor reflected the fire in the sky. Her glowing yellow eyes scanned the chaos below, but she wasn't afraid. She was angry. The humans were supposed to be weak. She had warned the council not to trust them. And now, on the very day of the Interworld Alliance Treaty, this happened. She looked down at the courtyard where the human delegation had gathered earlier. Most of them were running or hiding now. One of them caught her eye, a human man in a torn uniform crouched behind a fallen column. He had no weapon. His arm was bleeding. He looked confused, scared. She narrowed her eyes. That one won't last another minute, she muttered. She turned away, walking toward the command bridge. She didn't have time to watch weaklings die, but the moment she disappeared behind the door, something strange happened. The human stood up. His legs trembled, and his breath was heavy, but he didn't run. He stared at the smoke and fire around him, then toward the sky, where one of the enemy's sky titans was descending. It was massive, metal wings, burning eyes, and a voice that roared like thunder. The ground shook as it landed. Everyone else ran, but not him. He looked at his broken wrist, gritted his teeth, and snapped it back into place with a scream. Then he picked up a shattered blade lying beside a dead guard. It was too heavy for him. He dragged it at first, then lifted it with both hands. The Sky Titan saw him. It laughed. A god machine from the ancient war. Nothing could stop it. The alien soldiers watching from the towers expected him to be crushed in seconds. He was just a man. No shield. No armor. Just raw skin and blood. Zareth returned to the window when the alarms grew louder. She saw the Titan, stepping forward, and the human charging toward it like a fool. She scoffed. Then her eyes widened. The Titan struck first. The ground exploded. Dust rose, but the human dodged. He moved like lightning, sliding under the machine's legs and slashing upward. Sparks flew. The crowd gasped. Then he leapt onto the Titan's back, holding on with one hand, stabbing with the other. Zareth couldn't believe what she was seeing. It wasn't skill. It wasn't training. It was pure will. Something wild. Something ancient. Something human. Every hit he took, he rose again. His body bent but didn't break. He fought with pain like it was nothing. The crowd grew silent. Even the Titan seemed confused. He reached its core and jammed the blade deep into it. The sky lit up with fire as the Titan fell, shaking the city. The human collapsed too. Zareth stared at him from above. Her heart, hardened by war and duty, skipped a beat. He wasn't weak. He was dangerous. And this was just the beginning. Smoke floated through the courtyard like a ghost. Bodies lay broken around the crater where the Titan had fallen. Flames still burned along the edges of the ruins. No one dared speak. No one moved toward the center. All eyes were fixed on the man lying beside the shattered god machine. Zareth descended the tower steps quickly, her long coat dragging through ash. She didn't know why her legs moved so fast. Something in her chest felt tight. Her soldiers tried to stop her, but she ignored them. The human was barely breathing. Blood covered his face. His hand still gripped the melted hilt of the broken blade. She stood over him, staring. This wasn't bravery. This was madness. He should have run. He should have begged. Instead, he fought a Titan with nothing but pain and fury. She knelt beside him. "What is your name?" she asked. His eyelids fluttered, but he didn't answer. Just a whisper left his lips, too soft to understand. Zareth glanced up. Medical drones were approaching. Her soldiers finally caught up with her, ready to carry the human away. But she raised a hand. "Wait." A commander from the inner circle stepped beside her. His voice was cold. "He's just a human. Let the machines clean up the mess. Zareth stood slowly. Her voice was sharper than steel. That mess just destroyed a god titan alone. He got lucky, the commander said. No, she replied. He didn't. That wasn't luck. That was something else. She looked around at the soldiers watching. Most were silent, confused, and shaken. Warriors who had trained for decades had failed to stop the Titan. But this outsider did it with a broken sword and shattered bones. Take him to the cryo-wing, she ordered. I want him alive. The med drones lifted him gently and floated away toward the inner palace. Zareth watched until they disappeared. Then she turned to her officers. Find out where he came from. I want every record. The council chamber was in chaos. Leaders from across the star systems were yelling over each other. Some blamed sabotage. Others demanded war. The humans had already retreated from the planet, believing one of their own had died. They didn't even know what he had done. Zareth entered the chamber in silence. The council fell quiet. Why is a human in our care? One elder asked. Because he did what we could not, she said. An old warrior with gray horns leaned forward. He is dangerous. She nodded. Yes. But not to us. Not yet. The elders looked at each other nervously. One of them asked, You trust him? No, she said. But I want to understand him. Before someone else does. Back in the cryo-wing, the human lay, inside a sealed chamber. His body was covered in healing gel. Machines monitored every breath. His name appeared on the screen. Elias Vorn. He had no noble title, no military record, just a quiet history. A technician, a repair worker. No one important. Zareth stood outside the glass, watching him. How could someone so unremarkable hold such power? She had seen warriors die screaming under titans. She had seen cities fall in seconds. But this man stood against all of it, and won. She thought about his eyes during the fight. There was no fear. Only fire. The council would want him gone. The Alliance might demand him back. But she wasn't ready to let him go. She turned to her guards. Keep him under watch. Do not speak to him. Do not approach unless I give the order. One of them asked, What if he wakes? Zareth looked back at the human, then answered quietly. Then pray he remembers who helped him, and not who left him behind. The cryo chamber was silent except for the soft hum of machines. Lights pulsed gently around the healing pod. Elias Vorn's body floated in the suspension fluid, unmoving. His wounds were sealed, his bones slowly knitting. But his mind was not at rest. Inside the dream he was still fighting. Flashes of fire, the Titan's roar, his own scream as bones snapped, a memory that burned itself into his soul. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't trained for war. But something inside him had taken over. A part of him he didn't understand. And it scared him. Outside the chamber, Zareth stood watching again. For 3 days, she hadn't left the palace. She skipped strategy briefings, ignored reports. Her mind kept going back to the moment he jumped onto that Titan. The fire in his eyes, the madness in his movements. No one could explain it. Not the doctors, not the scientists. Some whispered that it was ancient human rage, a trait buried in their genes. Others believed it was something worse, an awakening. Zareth didn't know what to believe, but she knew one thing. Elias was not ordinary. The lights blinked red. A beep echoed through the chamber. Zareth stepped closer. Inside the pod, Elias twitched. His fingers moved. His eyes opened. Bright amber stared back at her through the glass. He gasped. Fluid drained from the chamber. The pod opened with a hiss. Elias fell forward, coughing hard. Zareth caught him before he hit the floor. You're awake, she said. His voice was rough. Where am I? Kiros. You're safe, she replied. He looked around confused. The Titan. Did I die? No. But you came close. He touched, his chest wincing. The scars were still fresh. Why didn't you leave me to die? Zareth stood tall. Because I saw what you did. And I need answers. Elias was taken to a private room. No windows. One guard. Zareth entered alone, bringing food and clothes. He was sitting quietly, staring at his hands. They trembled slightly. You fought like someone who had nothing to lose, she said. He didn't look up. I didn't think. I just moved. No one moves like that without reason. He gave a weak smile. I watched my team die. The people I came with. I couldn't let that thing win. Zareth sat across from him. You were a repair tech, right? Not a warrior? He nodded. Yeah. Fixed engines, tuned energy coils. I've never even held a blade before that day. She studied his face. Then what woke up in you? He finally met her eyes. I don't know. But it felt like something else took over. Like a storm inside my bones. It burned. Zareth's gaze hardened. You're not the only one who felt it. The Titan didn't just fall, it froze, as if something terrified it. Elias looked away. Maybe it wasn't just the Titan. Zareth stood and walked to the door. Before leaving, she said one last thing. The Council wants to send you back to Earth, but I won't let them. Not yet. Not until I know what you really are. That night, Elias dreamed again. But this time it wasn't a memory. He stood in a dark place. Endless stars above. A voice whispered in a language he didn't know, yet somehow understood. You are waking, and so are we. He opened his eyes with sweat on his brow. Something deep inside him had changed, and whatever it wasn't done. Morning light spilled through the tall glass panels of the Kyrian palace. Outside, the city was rebuilding, slowly. Smoke still drifted over the rooftops, but the worst was over. Inside the palace, however, something new was rising, a tension that no one could name. Zareth stood in the war room, arms folded behind her back, staring at a hologram of the fallen Titan. Her officers discussed troop movements and defense plans, but her mind was far away. She couldn't stop thinking about Elias. He was a mystery wrapped in blood and silence. Her second-in-command approached with a data slate. We found something, he said. It's about the human. Zareth took the slate. It showed medical scans, gene analysis, and fragments of ancient data. He shouldn't have survived, the officer said. His body was failing. His cells were tearing apart. But something healed him, too fast. And there's more. She raised an eyebrow. Go on. We cross-checked his DNA with old Kyrian records. There's a match. A perfect one. Zareth's eyes narrowed. That's not possible. He's human. That's what we thought too. But this match is over 1,000 years old. A blood signature buried in the vault of origin. From the age of the First War. She stared at the glowing screen. What kind of match? The officer hesitated. A warrior, marked by the gods. A Kyrian legend, but the blood was lost to time. Until now. Zareth didn't speak. Her thoughts raced. Could Elias be connected to an ancient Kyrian warrior? Or was something else at work? Something older than both their species? Meanwhile, Elias sat alone in his room, staring at the wall. The dream from the night before still echoed in his head. A voice from the stars. A warning, or a promise. He was trying to stay calm, but his heart wouldn't slow down. Something had changed inside him. He could feel it. A strange energy in his veins. His skin itched. His breath sometimes steamed like smoke even in the cold. And sometimes when he closed his eyes, he saw things that didn't belong to him. Cities made of light. Faces carved in stone. Memories that weren't his. The door opened. Zareth stepped in. You need air, she said. He looked at her with tired eyes. Is that an order? It's a suggestion. She took him through the private halls of the palace, away from guards and council spies. They walked along a quiet garden wall. The wind moved gently. Elias breathed deeply. He didn't realize how much he needed it. "You're not telling me something," he said. Zareth nodded slowly. "We found traces of ancient Kyrian blood in your body, blood that hasn't been seen in over 1,000 years. Elias blinked. "I'm not Kyrian." "No, but the blood is there." He rubbed his forehead. "Great. So now I'm some kind of ancient freak too?" She studied him closely. "It might," explained the voice you heard. "The strength, the rage. Maybe something old woke up inside you, something that doesn't care what species you are." Elias laughed bitterly. "Well, whatever it is, I didn't ask for it." Zareth looked away. "Neither did we. But we're all part of this now." As they walked, something in the distance shifted. A low hum in the sky. Zareth stopped. Elias felt it too. A vibration in the ground. He turned toward the horizon. From beyond the mountains, a pulse of energy shot into the sky. Black and red lightning cracked open the clouds. Zareth's voice was low. "That signal? It's from the old warfields. No one goes there. Nothing survives there." Elias stared at the sky. "Then why does it feel like it's calling me?" Zareth didn't answer. But deep below the city, something ancient had heard the signal too. Something that remembered Elias's blood. Something that was now waking up. The ancient warfields of Kyros were a cursed place. No one had stepped there in centuries. The land itself was blackened and twisted, poisoned by the weapons of the First War. But now, something stirred beneath that dead soil. The pulse of red, and black lightning hadn't stopped. It spread through the sky like veins of fire. Zareth stood at the edge of the command platform, her face hard and unreadable. Behind her, military shuttles prepared for launch. Her officers shouted orders, but her eyes stayed fixed on the storm in the distance. She turned as Elias approached, wearing simple armor provided by her guards. It didn't look right on him. Too polished, too alien, but he moved in it like it was part of him. "I'm going with you," he said. She didn't argue. "You're connected to that place somehow. I'd rather keep you close than guess what might happen next." Elias nodded. "I don't know what's calling me, but it feels familiar, like something I forgot a long time ago." Zareth signaled to the pilot. The shuttle doors opened. Inside, soldiers gave Elias wary glances. They still didn't trust him. No matter what he had done, the flight to the warfields was silent. The closer they got, the darker the world became. The clouds were thick with static. The earth below was cracked and steaming. Ruined machines lay scattered across the ground, their metal bones reaching toward the sky. When the shuttle landed, no one moved at first. The energy in the air made their skin tingle. Zareth stepped out first. Her boots sank slightly into the soft, scorched ground. Elias followed. His heart pounded with every step. Something was pulling him forward, not just in his mind. His blood felt warmer, his hands slightly glowing with a faint red shimmer. They reached the center of the field. An old monument stood there, broken and covered in ash. Around it, the remains of ancient gods, metal giants, long fallen, lay buried. Suddenly the ground shook. Zareth drew her blade. Soldiers raised their rifles. From beneath the soil, a massive crack split open. Red light shot upward. The air screamed. A shape rose from the earth. It wasn't a machine. It wasn't a creature. It was both. Tall, armored in black stone, with eyes of burning silver. It looked like the Titans, but older, more aware. It stared directly at Elias. Zareth shouted, "Fall back!" But the ancient being didn't attack. It spoke. Its voice was deep, like thunder rolling under the sea. "You carry the blood of the first flame." Elias took a step forward, confused. "What are you?" "I am the echo of the Godbreaker. The memory of the war that ended worlds." Zareth moved beside Elias, weapon raised. "What do you want?" The echo didn't look at her. Its eyes stayed on Elias. He must choose. The blood in him is not meant to sleep, it is meant to burn. If he accepts it, the gods will return. If he refuses, the flame will die forever. Elias's breath caught in his throat. What do you mean the gods will return? The echo slowly lowered itself back into the ground. Your kind forgot. But the war remembers. You are the spark. You are the weapon. Choose wisely, child of fire. Then the light vanished. The ground sealed again. Silence returned. Zareth stared at Elias. Is it true? Are you a weapon? He didn't answer right away, but inside he already knew. Something old had been waiting in his blood, and now it wanted out. The ride back from the warfields was silent. The soldiers avoided looking at Elias. Even Zareth, who had stood at his side through chaos and fire, kept her thoughts to herself, but her eyes told the truth. She was watching him closely as if waiting for something to change. Elias sat alone in the corner of the shuttle, staring at his hands. They still glowed faintly, the red shimmer pulsing just beneath the skin. The loud voice of the echo repeated in his mind. You are the spark. You are the weapon. He had never felt so powerful, or so afraid. When they returned to the capital, the palace was in lockdown. The council had heard about the signal and the creature. From the warfield, they demanded answers, and Zareth was summoned to speak. But she didn't go alone. She brought Elias. The council chamber filled with cold stares and whispering voices as the human stepped inside. Elders wrapped in gold and silver robes sat in high seats, their faces full of fear and doubt. One of them stood. What is that thing doing here? Zareth raised her chin. That thing saved our world once already, and now the gods themselves are speaking through him. An elder slammed his staff on the ground. He's a danger, a relic from a forgotten war. We should exile him. Lock him away before it's too late. Elias stepped forward, his voice calm but sharp. You think I wanted this? You think I enjoy waking up every night feeling like fire is crawling through my veins? He held up his hand. The red glow returned, swirling like smoke under his skin. I didn't ask for this, but if it's inside me, I'll control it. I'm not your enemy. The council grew restless. Another elder spoke, this one older, quieter. What if the old powers are returning? What if the gods you defeated long ago and never truly died? Zareth answered. Then we'll need him. The council argued for hours, but no decision came. In the end, they gave Zareth limited freedom. Elias could stay, but under full observation. One misstep and they would remove him permanently. Back in her private chamber, Zareth poured 2 cups of thick Kyrian tea. Elias sat across from her, shoulders tense. You're calm for someone who just stood in front of 100 people who want him dead, she said. He smirked. Inside, I'm shaking. Outside, I just pretend. She handed him the cup. They won't leave you alone. Not after what the echo said. Elias stared into the drink. What happens if I lose control? Zareth didn't lie. You could destroy this city. Maybe more. He let out a bitter breath. Great. That helps. But I don't think you will, she added. He looked at her. Why? Because the first time you woke up, you used it to save others, not to destroy them. Later that night, Elias couldn't sleep. The wind outside howled, and his blood burned hotter than before. He stood at the balcony, looking up at the stars. A voice echoed in the back of his head again. They will come for you. Not to kill you, but to claim you. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught his eye. A figure leapt over the wall, silent, fast, dressed in black. An assassin. Elias turned just as a blade sliced toward him. His body reacted before his mind could catch up. The red light exploded from his palm, sending the attacker flying across the balcony. The wall cracked where the body hit. Zareth rushed in seconds later, guards behind her. Elias stood in the middle of broken stone, breathing hard. His eyes glowed. His hands trembled. I didn't mean to, he said. It just happened. Zareth looked at the unconscious assassin, then at Elias. They're already testing you. He nodded slowly. And next time, they won't send just one. The next morning, the palace was surrounded by fear. Word spread fast. A human had burned a wall with his bare hands. An assassin had tried to strike but failed. No one knew who sent the killer. No group claimed it. That made it worse. Zareth ordered full lockdown of her wing. Only trusted guards could move through the halls. But she knew it wouldn't stop the whispers, or the fear building inside the council. Elias sat in the training chamber, breathing heavily. Sweat covered his skin, and the walls around him were scarred. He had asked for a space to practice alone. No machines, no swords, just him and his fire. Every time he focused, the red light returned. Not wild and out of control this time, shaped. It bent to his will. He could make it flow across his skin like armor. He could throw it like a blade, but the more he used it, the more it felt like something inside him wanted out. Zareth entered quietly, watching from the doorway. Elias noticed her and lowered his hand. "Still think I'm safe to keep around?" he asked. She stepped closer. "I think you're the only one strong enough to stop what's coming." He picked up a towel, wiping his face. "You mean the old gods?" Zareth nodded. "There are signs in the outer systems. Ships disappearing, stars going dark. Some believe the god machines are waking, not like the Titan you fought, but older, smarter, waiting." Elias looked down at his hands. "And they want me." Zareth didn't answer. She didn't have to. That night, Zareth held a private meeting in the war chamber. Only 3 generals were present. She placed a map on the table, glowing with coordinates. "This was intercepted 2 hours ago," she said. The hologram showed a hidden world, one that had been destroyed long ago. Now it pulsed with energy again. One of the generals frowned. "That world is dead. There's nothing left." "Something is there now," Zareth said. "And it's drawing power from the warfield you saw earlier." The second general looked at her. "You think the gods are rebuilding?" "I think they never left," she said. "And Elias is the key." Back in his quarters, Elias stood in front of the mirror. His reflection didn't look like the man who once fixed machines. His muscles were leaner, his stance stronger. The fire had changed him, not just inside, but outside too. He heard footsteps. Zareth entered with 2 guards. "We're leaving," she said. "Where?" "To the ruined world. The gods might be gathering there. If you want answers, that's where they'll be." He hesitated. "And if I lose control? Then I'll stop you," she said. He gave a short laugh. "Promise?" Her voice was calm but deadly serious. "I always keep my promises." They boarded a stealth cruiser at night. No ceremony, no farewell. Only Zareth, Elias, and a squad of elite guards. The ship lifted through the clouds and into the stars. As the planet faded behind them, Elias stood by the viewing deck watching. Zareth stepped beside him. "You were afraid when I first saw you," she said. "I still am," he replied. "Good. Stay afraid. But don't let it stop you." He looked at her. "You didn't think much of me when we first met, did you?" "No," she admitted. "I thought you were weak. I thought you'd die." He raised an eyebrow. "What changed your mind?" "You made a god bleed," she said. "And I've never seen a god bleed before." The stars outside twisted as the ship jumped to light speed, but something ancient was already waiting for them on the other side. The stars blurred into streaks as the stealth cruiser slipped through hyperspace. No one on board spoke much. Every soldier on Zareth's team had faced war before, but this mission felt different. None of them were sure what they were walking into, not even Zareth. Elias sat in the dark near the observation window, watching stars melt past the glass. His hands were still glowing faintly. He didn't need sleep anymore. His body had changed. His thoughts, too. It was like something else had joined him. Something older, quieter, always whispering just behind his mind. Zareth walked in, her armor sealed, her weapons ready. She didn't ask if he was okay. They had moved past that. She simply sat across from him. "The planet's surface is unstable. Scans are distorted, but there's a pulse beneath the crust. Same signature as the warfield," she said. Elias nodded. "It's waiting for me." Zareth didn't deny it. "We'll land in the black zone. The others will stay behind until we give a signal. The ship dropped out of hyperspace near a burnt and broken world. Once called Meraxis, it had been erased from records after the first collapse. But it wasn't dead. It was changing. Red lightning cracked across its sky. Glowing rings hovered above the ground like open wounds. Ruins floated midair, untouched by gravity. The world pulsed like it was breathing. Elias stepped off the ship first. As soon as his boots hit the ground, the air shimmered. Zareth and her squad followed closely behind. They moved across dead plains and through broken spires of stone and metal. The deeper they went, the more the air grew heavy. And then, without warning, the earth split. A wide chasm opened beneath their feet, not from weakness, but like something had invited them. Elias didn't hesitate. He jumped. Zareth cursed, then followed. They landed inside a hollow dome of silver stone. The walls glowed with symbols that moved like living ink. At the center was a figure. Not metal, not flesh. A mix of both. It rose as they approached, its head crowned in gold flame. "You return to the forge," it said, voice echoing in every direction. Zareth raised her weapon, but it didn't move. It was looking only at Elias. "I don't know you," Elias said. "You were never meant to. But you were made here. Your blood, your rage, your spark. It was built in the forge of flame during the final days, when the gods began to fear death." Elias stepped closer. "Why me?" "Because you were forgotten," the being said. "And only the forgotten can break the chains. The gods bound your kind long ago, sealed the flame inside human blood, a piece in every generation. Waiting. Hiding." Zareth narrowed her eyes. "And now he's waking?" The figure nodded. "The others will come for him. To control him. To bind him again. But if he chooses the forge, he will no longer be human." Elias felt his breath grow shallow. "What do I become? Fire. War. Memory." Zareth stepped beside him. "You don't have to listen to it," she said. "You're still you." The figure turned to her. "He was never just himself. He carries the fire of many, the storm, the wrath, the hunger. It will burn through him, or it will burn through everything else." The ground trembled. From above, the sky cracked open. Ships were entering orbit, not friendly ones. Zareth's communicator buzzed. "They've found us," she said. "Unmarked warships. Council didn't send them. Someone else did." Elias looked at the figure. "Is there a way to stop them?" The figure's voice deepened. "Take the flame. Accept it fully, and you will no longer fear gods." Zareth looked at Elias. "If you do this, there's no turning back." Elias closed his eyes and took a step toward the light. The moment Elias stepped into the light, the forge answered. Flames erupted, not from fire, but from memory, history, and rage. The ancient power that had once shattered worlds now poured into him. The chamber shook. The floating symbols on the walls spun wildly, reacting to his presence. Zareth stepped back, shielding her eyes. Elias dropped to his knees. His skin glowed like molten metal, and his veins lit up like rivers of lava. The crown of fire appeared above his head for a heartbeat, then sank into his bones. The air filled with energy so thick it cracked the floor beneath him. And then, silence. Elias stood. He was no longer just a man. The armor of red light formed over his body, not from steel but pure flame. His eyes glowed bright enough to cast shadows. Every breath he took sent out sparks. He turned to Zareth. "I remember everything now." She lowered her weapon, staring. "What are you?" He looked upward toward the sky. "What I was meant to be." Above them, warships had entered orbit. The unmarked vessels weren't from the Kyrian Council. These were something else, older, darker. Their hulls were shaped like teeth, their engines silent. They hovered in the upper atmosphere, charging weapons. Then they began to descend. Inside one of the lead ships, an alien commander watched Elias's signal on the screen. He activated the forge. That means the flame has returned. Soldier asked, "Should we attack?" The commander's voice was cold. "We don't attack. We erase." Back on the ground, Zareth received the transmission from her ship. 10 enemy ships, orbital weapons online, will be hit in 90 seconds. Elias stepped forward. "Let me." Zareth touched his shoulder. "You don't have to do this alone." He looked at her with calm fire in his eyes. "I won't be alone." He raised his hand and vanished. In a flash of red energy, Elias tore through space, reappearing above the clouds like a burning comet. The warships locked on immediately, but before they could fire, Elias shot forward. He flew like lightning, slamming into the first ship with enough force to split the hull in half. No weapons, no armor, just pure energy. The ship exploded, and he flew through the fire straight into the next. From the surface, Zareth and her squad watched in stunned silence. Above them, red and gold streaks moved like a storm across the sky, turning enemy ships into falling wreckage. Inside the command ship, the alien commander stepped back in horror as Elias appeared on the bridge. He didn't speak. He didn't ask questions. He just raised his hand and fire swallowed the room. In less than 2 minutes, every hostile ship had fallen, and Elias returned. He landed softly on the black stone near Zareth, smoke rising from his shoulders. The red light around him dimmed slowly. Zareth walked up to him. "You ended a war before it started." He looked tired but steady. "I don't know if that was a war, or just a test." She nodded. "They wanted to see what you would become." He turned his eyes toward the stars. "Now they know." Back in the shadows of the galaxy, others were watching. On distant thrones and cold, forgotten moons, ancient beings stirred. The flame had returned, and they remembered the last time it rose. It had ended empires. Now they would have to decide, serve the new flame, or try to kill it before it became a god. The stars above Kiros were no longer still. In every system, something had changed. The flame had returned, and the ancient ones could feel it. Far beyond the known regions, in a hollow world wrapped in black stone, 5 beings sat in silence. They were not alive in the way mortals understood. They were remnants of the first war, minds made of thought and gravity. The last of the gods. "He has awakened," said the first. "The forge has chosen again," said the second. The third leaned forward. "He must be destroyed before the flame spreads." But the fourth, who had seen the end of galaxies, answered coldly, "You tried that last time, it didn't work." They all turned to the fifth, the one who spoke the least. "What will you do?" The fifth answered, "I will go to him." Back on Kairos, the skies were quiet. The palace was secure. The people, for the first time in weeks, were calm. But Zareth was not. She stood alone on the highest tower, watching Elias train in the courtyard below. He moved like fire-made flesh, blades of light forming in his hands, vanishing when not needed. He was learning fast. Too fast. Elias looked up and caught her watching. "You're worried." Zareth climbed down to him, crossing the courtyard quickly. "You're stronger every day. But strength isn't the problem." He paused. "You think I'll lose control?" She shook her head. "No, I think others will try to control you, or worship you, or fear you, and I don't know which is worse." Elias nodded slowly. "I don't want any of it. I never asked to become this." Zareth looked around. "But you are, whether you asked or not." Suddenly the air shifted. A pressure rolled over the palace like a tidal wave. Birds scattered. The light dimmed. And then, without warning, a shape appeared in the center of the courtyard. Tall, pale, eyes like distant suns. The fifth god. The guards raised weapons. Zareth drew her blade. But Elias stepped forward, his fire already rising. The god spoke softly. "You are not ready." Elias answered firm and clear. "Try me." The god moved like thought. 1 second he stood still. The next he was inches from Elias. His hand struck, but it didn't land. Elias blocked it. Fire clashed with time. Space twisted around them. Zareth was forced back by the energy. The god spoke again. You remember rage, but do you remember purpose? Elias struck, his fire turning into a blade that cut across the god's form. The being staggered. I don't need your memories, Elias said. I make my own. The god smiled, not in anger but in respect. You are the first flame reborn, and you choose your own fire. Then he vanished, leaving only glowing ash behind. The energy settled. The air returned to normal. Zareth walked toward Elias, stunned. What just happened? He looked up at the sky. I think they were waiting to see if I would become one of them, or burn them instead. She smirked. And I chose neither, he said. I'll be something new. Weeks later, peace returned. The council grudgingly accepted Elias's presence. Some still feared him, but no one dared challenge him. Stories spread across the galaxy of the man who defeated gods, who rose from nothing and became legend. But Elias never saw himself as a god. He still walked the halls like a man. He still spoke softly. He still looked at Zareth like she was the one who gave him purpose, not power. And she stayed by his side, because she had seen him when he was weak. And now, she had watched him defeat a god, not with anger, but with will, and, for the first time in 1,000 years, the flame walked free.